All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're going to take one of the oldest, most foundational stories in the world and look at it through a modern sci-fi lens. We're talking about reimagining salvation, not as some ancient, dusty mystery, but as a full-on, cosmic, dimensional rescue mission. Seriously, this is going to be fun.
So, to really get our heads around this, we first need to borrow a concept straight out of science fiction. It's an idea that's so powerful, it's even used in the business world to talk about strategy. It's called a dimensional reduction attack.
It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's all about a total, crushing imbalance of power. Imagine us as 3D beings interacting with a 2D, flat world. We could attack from a direction they literally can't comprehend, from above. For them, it wouldn't be a battle. It would be a physics-defying apocalypse. That's a dimensional attack. It's an overwhelming, unstoppable advantage.
And right here, this is where everything gets flipped on its head. Our source material poses this incredible question. What if you took this brutal, overwhelming concept and used it not to crush, but to save? What if the whole point of this divine intervention wasn't a show of force, but a rescue mission, using a strategy that seems, well, completely backwards?
This whole idea starts with phase 1 of the plan, something called the incarnation or Tao Ching Roshen. But instead of seeing it as just a miracle, let's frame it as a deliberate, voluntary, dimensional downgrade.
Think about what that really means. For a being that exists outside of time, space, and physical form to enter our world, it had to play by our rules. It had to accept our limitations, things like hunger, getting tired, feeling pain, and ultimately facing the #1 rule of our dimension: everything dies. It's like the creator of a video game willingly giving up all the admin rights and cheat codes to play as a regular character.
And that's the big question, isn't it? It just doesn't seem logical. If your goal is to rescue someone, you bring overwhelming force. You bring the helicopters and the army. You don't show up in a way that makes you just as vulnerable as the people you're trying to save. So why choose weakness?
And the answer is just brilliant. It turns out the goal was never about conquest. It was about translation. It wasn't a failure in strategy. It was a deeply intentional communication strategy. The whole point wasn't to overwhelm us, but to finally be understood by us.
Here's a way to think about it. Imagine a data file that's so huge, so complex, that our computers just can't open it. They don't have the processing power. That's kind of like a higher dimensional truth for our 3D brains. So, by living a human life, the divine essentially compressed these giant, incomprehensible truths into a file format we could finally open and read. The universal language of love, compassion, sacrifice, and forgiveness.
And this isn't just some modern sci-fi retcon. This idea is right there in the source material. A verse like this stops being just poetry and starts sounding like a technical description. The word, the data, the information became flesh, a readable, understandable format for us. Okay, but if the plan is communication, this next phase is where it seems to go completely off the rails. We're talking about the crucifixion. From any normal human perspective, this looks like a catastrophic failure. I mean, in our dimension, the rules are brutally simple. The strong survive, the powerful win. Weakness gets you killed. And being publicly executed by the most powerful empire in the world, well, that is the very definition of losing. It's game over, right?
But what if that ultimate defeat was actually the ultimate disguise? The source we're looking at uses this amazing metaphor of a Trojan horse. The enemy, the system of death and decay, thinks it's won. It thinks it's destroyed its opponent, and it drags this trophy of a dead body inside its own fortress.
The enemy never saw it coming. The strategy was to use the enemy's own weapon, death, against itself. The logic of our dimension is that death is the end, full stop. It couldn't possibly comprehend that death could be used as a doorway, as a way to get inside the system and dismantle it from within. So, if this wild Trojan horse strategy actually worked, where's the proof? Well, the evidence shows up as a glitch in the matrix. We're talking about the resurrection. But it's not just about coming back to life. It's presented as this fundamental break in the physics of our reality, proof that a new set of rules had been successfully uploaded.
Just look at the reported glitches. This resurrected body could apparently pass through solid walls, but you could also touch it. It could appear and disappear in an instant, but it could also sit down and eat a piece of fish.
It wasn't a ghost, but it wasn't just a reanimated corpse either. It was something totally new, operating by a different set of rules.
The Apostle Paul actually gave this new state a name, a spiritual body, or Ling Xing De Shen Ti. And that sounds like a total contradiction to us, right? Spiritual is supposed to be non-physical. A body is physical. But this new idea merges them. It's a truly physical existence that's no longer trapped by the laws of decay, disease, and death that run our dimension.
And that's when you realize the true scale of this thing. The resurrection wasn't just a personal escape plan for one person, it was the proof of concept. It was the successful beta test for a system-wide update for the entire cosmos.
It's like this whole intervention was designed to rewrite the source code of the universe. The old operating system was simple. Brokenness, or sin, leads to decay, which leads to death. But the new OS installs a whole new line of code. Spirit leads to life. And that one change completely alters the universe's final destination, from a state of corruption to one of incorruptibility.
This also gives us a new way to look at all those scary end-of-the-world prophecies. Maybe the fire they talk about isn't about total destruction, like some disaster movie. Maybe it's more like a system reboot, a server wipe. The fire isn't there to destroy the hardware. It's there to burn away all the corrupted data, the viruses, the bugs, all the pain, suffering, and death, to leave behind a clean, purified, upgraded system. Okay, so that's the grand cosmic sci-fi story. But what on earth does any of this have to do with our actual day-to-day lives? How do we use this?
Well, think about the last time you had a disagreement. Our go-to move, our default setting, is often the dimensional attack. We use our facts, our logic, our louder voice, our position of authority to simply crush the other person's point and win. But this cosmic strategy offers a different path, the voluntary reduction. It means choosing to set aside our need to win and instead genuinely try to enter the other person's world, to see from their perspective and to translate what we believe with empathy.
And when we do that, the goal changes. It's no longer about a win-lose outcome. The goal becomes a system upgrade for the relationship itself. You're not trying to beat the other person. You're trying to build a new level of understanding and connection with them. This is the big takeaway. This is the practical application of that cosmic strategy. Sometimes, the most powerful and effective thing you can do is not to use your advantage, but to willingly set it aside for the sake of real connection.
So, we'll just leave you with that question to chew on. The next time you find yourself in an argument and you know you have the upper hand, you have the better facts, you have the authority, what are you going to do? Are you going to launch that dimensional attack to win the point? Or are you going to try a voluntary dissent to win the person? The choice is yours. Thanks for tuning in.